Number 183 in the Radiance range is The Boxer from Shuji Terayama, a 1977 movie, and this is a film all about boxing, as you would guess, but it's not in the usual tradition of a boxing movie. The ring here is not a place of glory. It's a place where bodies are broken, lives are damaged, and obsession becomes almost impossible to separate from self-destruction. This is a hard-hitting movie that really does look at boxing as a horrible sport. It's not looking at it as a traditional heroic rise to fame type of thing. This is all about the brutality, not just the brutality of the sport, but for the people who encompass that as well. It doesn't glamorise it at all, and that's exactly what makes it really interesting.
勝てる試合を途中でやめてしまうなんて変な男ですね。謎だよ。俺にも全く理解できん。
The film follows Hayato, a young man drawn into the world of boxing and training under the influence of a former fighter played by the brilliant Bunta Sugawara. And it's this kind of relationship that gives the film a real dramatic centre. You have this youth, this hunger and physical potential and uncertainty. On the other side, you've got this experience, someone who's went through the disappointment, who's been through the discipline, the bitterness, and the knowledge of what boxing can take from a person. It's not a typical mentor story where the older man shapes the young man into the champion and everybody feels inspired at the end of it. The training here is punishment. The discipline becomes obsession, and the ring becomes a place where dreams and damage become almost the same thing. Bunta Sugawara is one of those familiar faces. If you've seen a lot of Asian films, you've seen him turn up, and you just kind of have this pedigree of assurance, and him playing this older, wiser boxer is great. You get a flashback to his career at the start where he's in the ring, he's doing well, he's at the pinnacle of his career, and suddenly he just switches off and he's just like, why? He allows himself to be knocked out. He loses that fight and moves into a world that is well below what he expected it to be. He is a man who has paid a price for what he has in his life. Someone who understands that the ring has marked him. And he kind of carries this experience throughout it. And it gives the mentor relationship a whole different spin, because is he really saving this young man, training him up, showing him how to fight, or is he leading him into another cycle of punishment? And I think that's one of the things that Terayama as a director has done really well here. Now, I haven't seen any of his other movies, but I am curious after this, because he doesn't really tackle the typical story. He brings something stranger. It has that familiarity of a skeleton of a boxing movie. It has the typical beats, but there is an oddness to the atmosphere, a sense of performance and overshadowing brutality in the film. The sport feels like a ritual, a spectacle, a kind of social theatre where men are supposed to turn pain into entertainment.
街でやれば暴行傷害罪、リングでやればチャンピオン。野蛮ですね。そうお考えになりませんか?
What stood out to me most in this movie is how brutal the film makes the boxing feel. It's not that sensationalist brutality. It's not in a cheap gore way. It's physical and emotionally brutal. You feel the repetition, the tired bodies, the way people are pushing through the pain barrier because stopping simply means failure. And the film absolutely does not treat that as noble. And that is, for me, super important, because a lot of boxing movies really romanticise the idea of the suffering. They make the pain feel inspirational. The boxer is far more suspicious of that. It asks what happens when the suffering becomes a system, when people are rewarded for absorbing damage, pretty much. The people surrounding the boxing itself are really interesting too, because it creates this whole ecosystem. There's people who profit from the hope and people who project their own failures onto younger bodies. And there is this constant cycle of violence throughout it. You know, you get too old where you can't take the punches, they train someone new and bring them through, but there are always these people on the outside taking advantage. You know, everyone seems to be watching and shaping and betting, and we get the training sequences or the judging sequences, and it just, everybody is basically consuming violence at this point, and that's where the film becomes much harsher, because when the punches land and the damage spreads much wider than just the ring. This was an incredible film. I really enjoyed it, and it took me a little while to settle into it, to realise I wasn't getting the Rocky story, where they persevere and become the people that are held up amongst everybody else. No, this is far different, and it's given this really rough visual style, a grounded quality to the film. It doesn't feel as if it's a strange world. It feels very realistic and very physical, and the spaces feel lived in. The gyms and the ring, the streets and the bodies all feel hardened over time. It feels like an almost ritual of endurance, a strong sense of people just stuck in a system because they see it as an avenue to a way out, but it's an avenue to much worse. You know, it's a place of punishment, and a place of labour where only a few will really bring success at that. For me, I loved the fact that it didn't glamorise the subject. It kind of understands the appeal of boxing, but it doesn't sell you the fantasy of it. You know, Burt Sugawara gives the film this hard, lived-in centre. I think he's the key to the film and carries a lot of it as well. Kentaro Shimizu, he has that kind of vulnerability of youth. He's the kind of person you'd be cheering to succeed, but you almost want him to break free of this cycle throughout it. And the direction I thought was absolutely terrific. But this is not going to be a film for everyone. If you want what you expect to be a typical boxing film, this is much tougher and stronger and far more challenging than that. Yeah, so be careful when going into this one. Temper your expectations and you'll be rewarded. Let's dive into the disc and have a look at the extras. Here we are in the disc for The Boxer. Let's go to the special features. First up we have J.A. Caesar. The film's composer discusses his long collaboration with Shuji Terayama and his approach to scoring the film. Filmed exclusively for Radiance in March 2026, and this runs for 18 minutes 29 seconds. Some great information here because he's obviously got a long relationship with the director, but particularly how he was almost pushed into picking up music, which is a really fun anecdote. Next we have the year Toei failed. Tom Mes looks at the year 1977 for Toei, which marked a commercial low ebb, but also a crucial turning point for the studio. Created exclusively for Radiance Films in April 2026. It's 12 minutes 21 seconds and it is fascinating. This is a great extra, giving you an insight into that year for the company and how they were trying to change and move with the times, and just almost every decision seemed to backfire, and it's just a fascinating capsule of that moment in time, and give me some movies that I'm really kind of curious in checking out. Also included in this set is a 20-page booklet which has the cast and crew and the transfer notes and credits as usual, and one essay, The Performance of the Body by Maria Roberta Novielli. And that's the extras for The Boxer. So there we have it. The Boxer is a rather unusual boxing film. It's unlike any other one that I have seen. It's about pain and ambition and the cyclical nature of violence, and how pain becomes a sport in certain people's hands. And it has a kind of distasteful look at that world, and I really kind of appreciated that as a counterpoint to many of the other films where you get that rise and fall of some boxer. This felt more realistic and harder hitting. I'd love to know your thoughts on the boxer, so let me know in the comment box below whether you loved it, hated it, or fell somewhere in the middle. As always, there is more content up here. You can see more of my stuff. In the description box are links to Patreon, membership program, and manvfilm.com, always in which you can support me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.